My husband brought home a set of triplets and insisted they were mine. I rushed to get a DNA test done overnight, and the results proved that none of the 3 children were related to either of us. But my husband lost it. He slapped me, called me disgusting, and forced me to sign the divorce papers, leaving me with nothing. Furious and shaken, I went to my best friend to vent. But the second she saw those 3 children, she grabbed the fruit knife from the table and slashed my face. If you dare say they aren't yours again next time, I won't stop there. My chest felt so tight I could barely breathe. That night, I bought a ticket and fled back to my parents' house. I cried as I told them everything. But after hearing me out, they grabbed a garden hoe and beat me to death. Even as everything went dark, still couldn't understand why everyone was forcing me to accept 3 children I had never given birth to. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day my husband first brought them home. I'm going downstairs for some fresh air. I'll be back soon. As I watched my husband, Ryan Taylor, bend down by the entryway to put on his shoes, a sudden jolt shot through my body. I had been reborn. Stay home and be good. Okay, honey? When I come back, I'll bring you that chestnut cake you love. From the bakery on the corner. His voice was so gentle, yet my heart twisted painfully in my chest. Even until the moment I died. In my past life, I never understood why. We had dated for 3 years and been married for 5. We loved each other deeply. We had always been faithful to each other. A medical exam from a reputable clinic had confirmed that. I had never given birth. Those 3 children had no blood relation to Ryan either. But in my last life, he had insisted they were mine. He had even forced me to give up millions in marital assets and leave with nothing. Why? Before I figured out the truth, I couldn't let him leave this house. Second he reached for the doorknob, I rushed over and jumped onto his back. Honey, don't go out. Let's have a baby of our own right now. His body stiffened slightly, and even his voice turned a little rough. Why so sudden? It's the middle of the day, and if we're trying for a baby, shouldn't we prepare first? I wrapped my arms around him even tighter. I don't care. I just want to take a bath with you. Only one thought filled my mind. If Ryan had a child of his own, maybe he wouldn't become obsessed with those 3 children of unknown origin. Maybe I could avoid the tragedy of my past life. But in the next second, the doorbell rang. Oh, I'll get it. As if pulled by some invisible force, Ryan rushed toward the door. With only a towel wrapped around him, I ran after him, trying to stop him. But it was too late. With a click, he opened the door. Outside stood 3 identical little boys. Ryan turned back to me, his face full of joy, and said the exact same words he had said in my last life. Honey, come look at our children. Don't they look just like you? It felt as if all the strength had been drained from my body. I stumbled back a step. Ryan, I have never done anything to betray you. How could they possibly be my children? The smile on his face vanished instantly. He pointed at me and shouted, they are yours because I said they are. You gave birth to them. Don't even think about denying it, Vivian. You're going to accept them today whether you like it or not. Don't even think about abandoning me and our sons. His face was twisted with the same madness I remembered from my previous life. But this time I didn't break down and argue like I had before. Instead, I let out a calm sigh. You say they're my children, fine. A pregnancy would leave traces, wouldn't it? Where's your proof? We've been together for 8 years. Ask yourself honestly, have I ever done anything to betray you or this family? My voice was filled with genuine confusion. I really don't understand why. Are you so determined to pin these 3 children of unknown origin on me? Ryan looked as if I had insulted him beyond forgiveness. The veins on his forehead stood out as he pointed at me and roared. Proof. They are the proof. They're standing right here. Vivian, I never thought you could be this heartless. These are your own flesh and blood. Even wild animals protect their young. And yet you won't even acknowledge your own children. You disappointed me so much. Before I could finish, Ryan raised his hand. 2 hard slaps landed across my face. My ears rang and my cheeks burned with pain. After hitting me and shouting at me, Ryan looked as if he had just completed some sacred duty. He turned around and pulled the 3 children into his arms. It's okay, babies. We're not going to listen to your bad mommy. Daddy will take you to the bedroom to rest. With that, he shielded the 3 boys and walked straight into the bedroom. Then he locked the door behind him with a click. Soon, laughter drifted out from inside. Every laugh felt like it was cutting into my chest. This time, I didn't call my best friend over to help smooth things over, like I had in my past life. This time, I wouldn't just sit back and suffer. I definitely wouldn't let myself die the same unjust death again. But then someone knocked on the door. My heart tightened. I didn't move. A second later, my best friend, Chelsea Zeller's familiar loud voice rang out from outside. Vivian, what are you doing in there? Open the door. Did you make Ryan mad again? I'm telling you, that man listens to everything you say. He never messes around. He always puts you first. And there's nothing to complain about. What more do you want from him? Don't be ungrateful. Just as I thought Ryan had gotten to her first, I took a deep breath and asked through the door, Chelsea, what did Ryan tell you? Chelsea sighed. You still have the nerve to ask? You cheated on Ryan and now you don't even have the guts to admit it. You won't even acknowledge your own children. Vivian, I never thought you were this kind of person. Do you even have a heart? You're making women look bad. Listening to her righteous accusations, I broke out in a cold sweat. In my past life, the moment Chelsea saw those 3 children, she grabbed the fruit knife on the table and slashed my face. Chelsea worked out regularly and was much stronger than me. I couldn't fight her off at all. Luckily, she hadn't seen the 3 children yet. I forced myself to stay calm and lie through the door. Chelsea, you've misunderstood. I think I caught the flu. I'm really dizzy and I don't want to get you sick. Let's talk another day. You should go home first. Chelsea fell silent for a moment. Then her voice suddenly sharpened. Wait, Vivian. Is there someone else in there? Why does it sound like there are kids inside? My heart sank. I quickly denied it. Number, you heard wrong. That's just the television. Chelsea's voice turned frantic. Vivian, what the hell are you doing? Open the door. Her pounding slammed against the door again and again, each hit landing on my nerves. Panic surged through me. I rushed to drag the dining table and chairs over to block the door. I couldn't let her in again. Absolutely not. But just as I dragged the table to the door, I heard a click. Blood in my body seemed to turn cold. It was over. I had forgotten. Chelsea and I were so close that we each had a spare key to the other's place. The moment the door opened, Chelsea rushed straight toward the bedroom. Chelsea, don't open that door. I lunged forward, trying to stop her, but the bedroom door opened on its own. Inside, Ryan was holding the 3 children close, looking impossibly affectionate. Elsie's eyes turned red with rage. Vivian, the proof is right in front of you, and you're still trying to deny it. You shameless woman. She spun around, rushed into the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen knife and swung it at me. Pain shot through my arm. If you dare say those children aren't yours one more time, I'll make sure you never say it again. I cried out and stumbled back. You disgusting woman. Those are your own children, and you still refuse to acknowledge them? Fine, I'll teach you a lesson myself. She kept cursing. The knife raised again. Just as despair was about to swallow me whole, familiar footsteps came from the doorway. Mom, Dad, help me. My mother rushed over and shielded me. Chelsea Zeller, have you lost your mind? How dare you attack Vivian? My father stepped in front of me, too, his face dark with anger. Whatever happened? Can you talk it out? Why would you attack her? Chelsea was breathing hard. She pointed toward the bedroom. Mr. and Mrs. Bennett. Why don't you ask her what she did? My parents looked past Chelsea and toward the bedroom door. The moment they saw the 3 children, their expressions changed. My mother shoved me away. Caught off guard, I fell to the floor. She pointed at me and screamed. Chelsea was right to hit you. A woman who won't even acknowledge her own children deserves it. My father turned on me too. His eyes filled with disappointment. You've disgraced this family. I never thought you could be this heartless. My heart sank, just like in my past life. The moment anyone saw those 3 children, they lost all reason. The pain in my chest was worse than the pain in my body. You ungrateful thing, my mother snapped. If I'd known you would grow up to be someone who wouldn't even recognize her own children, I never should have had you. I forced myself to speak through the pain. Mom, Dad, wake up. Ryan and I have only been married for 5 years. We were together almost every day. How could I possibly have hidden a pregnancy from him and given birth to 3 children? What is wrong with all of you? Why are you so desperate to claim these children, who came out of nowhere? My mother kicked me aside and rushed toward the boys behind Ryan. Oh, my precious grandsons. You're all so handsome. Come here and let Grandma see you. Mom, are you insane? I told you they have nothing to do with me. My father's expression darkened. You still dare talk back? They look exactly like you. Of course they came from you. Ryan is willing to forgive you, and you should be grateful. You cheated birth to someone else's children, and now you don't even have the courage to admit it. My mother grabbed a vase and threw it at me. My father picked up the mop from the corner and came at me with it. I curled up, protecting my head, and shouted, "Why do all of you go insane the moment you see these children? If you're so sure, then come with me for a DNA test." A DNA test, my mother snapped as she hit me. Why waste money? Anyone can see they're your sons. I didn't know how long it went on. Finally, they grew tired. Only then did they turn to Ryan. Ryan, we support you. Divorce this ungrateful daughter of ours. Make her leave with nothing. The house, the car, the savings, all of it should go to you. Ryan nodded obediently. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. Watching that scene, my heart went completely cold. In my past life, they had beaten me to death with a hoe. In this life, they had nearly beaten me to death all over again. In their eyes, I didn't matter at all. All they cared about were those 3 children, who had come out of nowhere. I no longer had the strength to argue. I simply said fine. I'll agree to the divorce. First you have to clear my name. Those children cannot be blamed on me. Ryan gave me a strange smile. Fine, he lifted his hand slightly. Chelsea immediately walked toward me, hatred written all over her face. Then she dragged me out, shoved me into the trunk of the car, and drove me to a DNA testing clinic. The doctor looked at me with open contempt. Clearly, he had already decided I was a cheating wife, who had given birth to another man's children. Ryan punched the wall, his shoulders trembling. My heart twisted painfully. I walked over, wanting to comfort him, but the moment my hand touched him, he recoiled like I had burned him. Then he slapped me across the face. You disgusting woman. You won't even acknowledge your own sons. Don't touch me, stay away from me. His reaction stunned me. I instinctively reached for his sleeve. Ryan, you. But he jerked away again. Get away from me. He growled. You make me sick. Looking at him like that, I felt heartbroken and powerless. Ryan, what happened to you? We loved each other so much. Why are you doing this? He looked up at me. Honey, it's because I love you too much. Why can't you just listen to me this once? Then he dropped to his knees with a thud. Honey, I'm begging you. Please accept the children. Just this once. Listen to me this once, okay? The moment he knelt, everyone around us erupted. Oh my God. That poor man is on his knees. She looks normal, but how can she be so heartless? Those kids are already so big. How can their own mother refuse to acknowledge them? Young people these days are unbelievable. She must have another man. Exactly. Why else would she refuse to claim her own children? Record it. Put it online and let everyone see what kind of person she is? The accusations and insults crashed over me like a wave. I tried to explain, number. It's not what you think, but my voice was drowned out by the crowd. He's still making excuses. Teach her a lesson. I didn't know who moved first. Someone shoved me. Then another person struck me. The crowd lost control, and I was knocked to the ground. I curled up trying to protect myself. But in the chaos, something hit the back of my head. Pain burst through me. Then everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. The nurse in the room looked at me with fear in her eyes. Then she handed me a document envelope. I sat up against the pillows and opened it with trembling fingers. The moment I saw what was inside, I finally understood why everyone had been forcing me to accept those 3 children. My fingers shook so violently that the thick, white paper of the medical report crinkled in my grip. The hospital room was quiet, smelling of bleach, cold oxygen, and sterile sheets. Through the window, the gray, overcast sky of the city seemed to press against the glass like a heavy weight. I ignored the throbbing pain at the back of my head where the mob had struck me. My eyes locked onto the black and white lines of text on the paper. It was an official, certified genetic audit from the State Forensic Bureau. The results did not show a 0% maternity match. Instead, the paper before me stated, maternity relationship, 99.99% match. The 3 male infants are the biological offspring of Vivian Bennett. My breath caught in my throat. I felt a sudden sickening wave of nausea wash over me. How could they be genetically mine when every single medical exam, every physical record, and my own memories proved I had never carried a child, let alone given birth to triplets? I flipped to the second page of the file. Tucked behind the genetic audit was a series of confidential investigative reports compiled by a private security firm stamped with a golden corporate seal, Vance International Trust. As I read the subsequent pages, the terrifying, bizarre puzzle of my 2 lifetimes finally, brutally fell into place. I wasn't the daughter of the middle-class Bennetts. I was the only biological granddaughter and sole heir of Silas Vance, the late industrial tycoon who had passed away 3 years ago. Before his death, he had established a private family trust worth $12 billion, secured under an ironclad legal clause. The $12 billion would be released to me and my biological children on my 20th birthday, which was precisely next Friday. If I turned 28 without any biological children, 90% of the trust's assets would be permanently donated to a national medical charity, leaving only a small monthly allowance for my guardians. Ryan, my doting husband, had discovered the trust 5 years ago through a corrupt clerk at the bank. My parents, who were actually my father's greedy relatives who had adopted me after my parents' death to secure my grandfather's minor allowances, had joined the conspiracy immediately. And Chelsea, my best friend, had been promised a 30% cut of the liquidated assets once the trust was triggered. But I had refused to have children. I wanted to focus on my career, and I was terrified of the hereditary heart disease my mother had suffered from. Desperate to unlock the $12 billion before the deadline, the 4 of them had conspired. 3 years ago, during a routine laparoscopic surgery I underwent to remove an ovarian cyst, my personal surgeon, who had been heavily bribed by Ryan, secretly harvested several of my healthy eggs. They had taken those eggs, used an underground IVF laboratory in Europe, and hired a surrogate mother to carry the triplets to term in a quiet, isolated town across the state. The 3 children were genetically mine because they were made from my stolen eggs. But they were not Ryan's. They had been fertilized using anonymous donor sperm to ensure there was no legal loophole that could tie the children's custody to anyone but me. The plan was terrifyingly simple. They needed me to sign the formal, legally binding maternity acknowledgement and trust release form before my 20th birthday. If I acknowledged the triplets as my biological sons, the $12 billion would be immediately released into our joint account. Once the money was in the account, Ryan would divorce me, my parents would disown me, and the 3 of them would claim the $12 billion, leaving me with absolutely nothing. And in my past life, when I had hysterically refused to sign, pointing to the DNA test that proved they weren't mine, which they had secretly swapped with a fake report to drive me mad, they had beaten me to death with a garden hoe in a fit of greed-induced rage. They hadn't gone insane because of some magical force. They had gone insane because of $12 billion. The heavy wooden door of my hospital room was quietly pushed open. I instinctively reached under my blanket, trying to hide the documents, my heart rate spiking on the monitor. But the man who walked into the room didn't wear the white coat of a hospital doctor or the cheap, frantic look of Ryan's lawyers. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a bespoke charcoal gray suit that looked as if it had been tailored on Savile Row. His face was sharp, intelligent, and carried an absolute, freezing authority. It was Harrison Vance. He was the chief estate executor of my grandfather's trust, the most powerful corporate lawyer in the state, and a man whose family's wealth completely eclipsed the local Harrison group. "Miss Bennett," Harrison said, his voice deep, warm, and entirely steady as he closed the door behind him. "I see you've read the file. You're the one who sent this?" I whispered, my voice cracked and dry. "My grandfather's private intelligence team has been monitoring the Bennetts' illegal IVF operations for 2 years, Harrison said, walking over and sitting in the chair beside my bed. "We wanted to intervene earlier, but under the terms of the trust, I couldn't legally freeze their actions until they attempted to execute the fraud." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a deep protective pride. "The moment Ryan brought those children to your house, they committed federal human trafficking and illegal egg harvesting. We have the forensic signatures, the laboratory receipts, and the confession of the surgeon who performed your operation 3 years ago." I gripped my blanket, my teeth chattering as the horror of my past life rushed back to drown me. "They killed me, Harrison. In my past life, they beat me to death because I wouldn't sign." Harrison's eyes went completely dark, a flash of pure, murderous coldness dancing in his eyes. He reached out and gently laid his hand over my shaking fingers, his palm warm, dry, and steady. "They won't touch you again, Vivian," he said, his voice dropping into a dangerous, quiet register. "But we need them to believe they've won." "Why?" "Because if you simply sign the papers under our supervision, we can hold a grand family banquet to celebrate the trust release," Harrison said, a cold, sharp smile playing on his lips. "And once we have them all in one room, the husband, the best friend, the parents, and their legal accomplices, we will shut the doors. We will let them see the $12 billion. And then we will let them watch their lives turn to ash." On Monday morning, I was discharged from the hospital. I didn't go back to the apartment where my parents and Ryan were currently holding the triplets. Instead, I stayed at a private penthouse owned by the Vance Group, my security managed by Harrison's personal elite security force. At 3 p.m., I dialed Ryan's number. The phone rang only once before he picked up, his voice high-pitched, frantic, and filled with a manic, greedy panic. "Vivian, where are you? The hospital said you were discharged. Do you have any idea how much stress you're putting on this family? The lawyers are waiting. We have to sign the papers by Friday." "I'm at the Grand Hyatt, Ryan," I said, my voice quiet, flat, and putting on a weak, defeated act. I saw the medical reports. I know the truth now." A sudden, breathless gasp of pure, victorious joy came from his end. You know, you accept that they're your sons." "Yes," I whispered, clutching my phone. "They have my DNA. I was so confused, Ryan. The memory loss, the postpartum depression. I didn't know what I was doing. I'm ready to sign." "I knew it." Ryan laughed hysterically, his voice cracking with greed. "I knew you'd finally act sensible. Mom and Dad are right here, they're so happy. We'll book the grand ballroom at the Marriott for Friday night. We'll invite the bank directors, the estate lawyers, and Chelsea. We'll make it a grand family celebration." "Okay," I said. "I'll see you there." I hung up, blocked his number, and looked at Harrison, who was standing by the window. "He fell for it," I said. "Of course he did. Harrison replied coolly. A man who is blinded by $12 billion cannot see the edge of the cliff until he has already fallen over it. Friday night. The grand ballroom of the Marriott was decorated in a lavish, gold and white theme, the heavy crystal chandeliers casting a dazzling light over the crowd of bank directors, trust lawyers, and high society families. Ryan stood near the center of the stage, wearing a tailored, expensive suit that looked slightly too big for his shoulders. His face was flushed with wine, his eyes wild with a triumphant, manic excitement. My parents, Donald and Helen Bennett, sat at the front VIP table, holding the 3 triplets in their arms, whispering endearments to them as if they were the most precious treasures in the universe. Chelsea Zeller stood beside them, wearing a high-end designer gown she had undoubtedly rented on credit, her eyes gleaming with greed as she looked at the heavy leather folders of the trust release documents on the table. I walked into the ballroom, wearing a simple, elegant black silk trouser suit. My posture was upright, my face healthy, and my eyes carried a quiet, freezing "Come, Vivian." Ryan roared, rushing down the stage steps to grab my arm. "You're finally here. The bank directors are waiting. Once you sign, the $12 billion will be transferred into our joint account immediately." "I'm ready, Ryan," I said, my voice echoing through the ballroom sound system. I walked up to the stage, the crowd of guests going quiet as the estate lawyers pushed the heavy leather folder toward me. "Miss Bennett," the head lawyer said, handing me a gold fountain pen. "By signing this document, you officially acknowledge these 3 children as your biological sons, and you authorize the immediate release of the Silas Vance family trust." I took the pen, my fingers steady. "Vivian, hurry up and sign." My mother hissed from the front table, her face twisted with a frantic, desperate greed. "Stop keeping everyone waiting." "Before I sign," I said, my voice quiet but cutting through the silent room like a scalpel, "I'd like to play a short video for our guests." I tapped my phone screen, and the massive high-definition screens behind the stage, the ones that had been displaying the Vance family crest, suddenly went black. A video began to play. It wasn't a family vacation photo. It was the security footage from the underground IVF laboratory in Geneva, clearly showing Ryan Donald Bennett and Chelsea Zeller signing the egg harvesting authorization forms 3 years ago. The ballroom went dead silent. The video changed again. It showed my personal surgeon, Dr. Evans, sitting in an interrogation room, sobbing and confessing. "Ryan Taylor paid me $200,000 to harvest Miss Vivian's eggs during her cyst surgery. He told me she'd never find out." And then came the final devastating audio recording, the one my private investigator had retrieved from Chelsea's phone. "Ryan, once the $12 billion is in the account, we'll stage an accidental fall for Vivian on her way back from the bank. The kids will inherit everything, and since I'm their father, the money is ours. Chelsea, make sure the fall is clean, Ryan. I don't want any police audits on my 30% share." The crowd of bank directors and estate lawyers let out a collective, gasping roar of absolute horror. "No, that's a deepfake. That's edited." Ryan shrieked, his face turning a violent, mottled shade of purple as he lunged toward the podium to grab the papers. But the double doors of the ballroom were thrown open. 4 uniformed federal marshals and 6 police officers strode into the ballroom, their heavy boots thudding against the marble floor. They bypassed Ryan's security completely, marched up to the stage and clicked heavy steel handcuffs around Ryan's wrists. "Donald Bennett, Helen Bennett, Chelsea Zeller, Ryan Taylor," the lead marshal announced, his voice flat as iron. "You are under arrest for human trafficking, illegal egg harvesting, and conspiracy to commit murder." "No, Mom, Dad. Vivian, tell them it's a joke," Chelsea shrieked, thrashing against the officers as her rented designer gown tore at the seams. "Vivian, we're best friends. I did it for you. I wanted you to have a family." My mother collapsed onto the floor, her face pale, her hands shaking as she tried to crawl toward me. "Vivian, I'm your mother. I raised you. You can't put your own parents in jail." "You're not my parents, Helen," I said, looking down at her from the stage. "You are my grandfather's greedy relatives who sold my life to buy your own luxury. And the $12 billion. I looked at Harrison, who was standing near the door with a team of legal executors. "The $12 billion has already been transferred to a private trust fund. In my name," I said softly. "The waiver has been signed. You get absolutely nothing." The security guards dragged them out of the ballroom, their weeping, frantic screams quickly swallowed by the heavy doors. I stood on the stage, looking at the empty room, my chest finally feeling the deep, beautiful warmth of a morning that belonged entirely to me. The 3 children were taken under the legal guardianship of the Vance Trust, to be raised in a quiet, loving countryside estate far away from the toxic greed of the city. I walked out of the hotel, My arm naturally hooked over Harrison's, my footsteps, steady on the marble steps under the clear, sunny sky. The nightmare of my past lives was finally, permanently dead. And my spring had finally begun.